So today I want to talk to you about how I use these Crayola washable markers to do a watercolor coloring. So I use both the bigger markers and also the small super tips in this 50 pack. So my main tips are to be careful that you don't lay down too much color. I like to take the super tips and just color along the edge of the drawing and the lines so that when I spread it with water, you don't actually see those lines. And then sometimes I will color with these markers in areas that are supposed to be shadow so that it's darker in those areas. And so the biggest concern with using these is how you can blend out the lines. So that's why I say be really careful at how much color you lay down and also where you lay the color down. And you'll see when I do my drawing a better idea of what I mean about where you're laying the color down. Don't color over the entire drawing, right? You're just going to color along the edge. Another thing that I use is these water brush pens. You just fill it with water and then you can use that when you go in to do your watercolor. I also keep a paper towel handy so that I can wipe these off as I'm using it so that it kind of cleans itself. You just wipe it on a paper towel and you can keep on going. So stay tuned to those videos so you can see how I do watercolors with these Crayola markers. Okay, so for this coloring, I'm going to do analogous colors, which are basically colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So for the flower itself, I'm choosing blue, pink, and purple. And the blue, you can see, is D2B07. Actually, the pink is also D2B07. And then the purple is D2B06. I'm not sure if those numbers correspond with anything, but they are colors that I get from this Super Tips. And I just want to say the reason why I chose colors that were next to each other is because those colors blend well. And since I'm putting all those colors in this flower and going to be blending them, that's why I chose that type of color palette. If I was to choose opposite of each other, those are complementary colors. And when you mix those colors, it provides like a gray or a brownish muted color, which is what I don't want. So like I said in the intro, what I'm going to do is just start by outlining like that. I don't want to fill in the entire flower. I'm just doing a little outlines where I want the color to be. You don't have to be super neat with this, but just remember it's hard to blend out the lines. So just be conscious of that. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of that pink that I chose. Doing the same thing and just outlining these petals along the lines that are already provided. And I'm just going to add a little bit of purple because when I'm mixing this blue with the pink, it's going to be a purple anyway, so I don't want it to be too purpley. I actually might go back in and add some more blue. Yeah, I'm just going to go back in and add a little bit more blue. So now since I have almost everything outlined, the flowers are actually done. I'm going to add a little bit of green. I told you the numbers before, but I'm not sure if these numbers mean anything, but this green that I'm using is D2B13, and I'm just using that on the leaves here. Again, I'm going to keep the color on the outside of these leaves and the lines. I'm actually going to add a little bit of color though underneath these petals that are hanging over the leaves, because I know I want that area to look a little darker anyway, kind of shadowed. So I will add some color there. And you see I'm leaving some lines here so that it's not a harsh straight line, kind of making the edge jagged just so it blends better. Add some green here. It's going to be darker under here, so I'm going to add a little bit of color there. I want it to be a little bit darker around the vase, just because I'm imagining there's going to be some shadow there. So I'm all right if that's darker and doesn't get blended out very well. That's it for the leaves. And then lastly, I'm going to add this blue. It's just called Blue. It's from this pack of 10. These are the broad line ones. Same thing here. The lip can be a little bit more because, again, shadow. Don't want that to be a straight line though. Just add some color around the edge. Again, I want some shadow down here, so I'm going to extend that a little bit. Not leaving any harsh lines though. And I think that's pretty good. So next, I'm just going to take a water brush pen, and I have a paper towel in my hand, and I'm just going to be wiping every now and then to clear the color, and I'm going to start painting. I'm starting where there's most concentration of color and just brushing it onto the other parts of the leaf. I'm actually not painting in my studio right now. In my studio or office, I have a ceiling fan, which helps the paper dry really quickly. But where I'm filming at, there's no ceiling fan, so the paper is not going to dry as quickly as it usually does for me. But the reason why I mentioned that is if I was to paint right here, because this part is wet and this part is going to be wet, it's going to just drag into each other, and the green was going to mix with these petals, which is what I don't want. I want to wait for this part to dry a little bit before I do anything close to it. So for that reason, I'm going to move on to the bottom of this vase here. Just blending that color down. And as you can see, this edge here is actually not getting blended out that much. That's why I said be careful where you add the marker, because you're going to have a lot of lines that you don't necessarily want. But since I outlined it, it kind of looks like I wanted that line to be harsh there. And this paper that I'm painting on is a mixed media paper, so it does handle water pretty well, but not super well like a watercolor paper would. So you can't fool around with it too much. Okay, next I'm going to move on to the petals, and I'm just cleaning this brush off just by wiping it on the paper towel. And I'm going to just color the same colors for now because I don't want them to mix too much. I want them to be blended, but not completely blended out so that you don't know, you can't see the distinguish between the colors. So I'm just focusing on the blue right now. This is really fun. I really like doing this type of painting with the markers because when you get into coloring, you really want to relax and be stress-free. And this is really quick and easy to do, and it is really stress-free to do this. So next I'm going to move to the purple. And you see some of that blue is getting mixed in, which is okay because they are next to each other on the color wheel. So it's not going to make a gray brown color. A gray or brown color. Complementary colors can make if you mix them. And the last color would be pink. You see me move my hand away. I'm just wiping this brush off on the paper towel when I'm moving between colors. And the reason why I like using this brush pen is because it really cleans itself really well just by wiping it. You don't have to keep dipping it in water and all that jazz. So just relaxing, stress-free painting. I'm just going back in to cover these white spots. And I'm really just doing that real quick. Moving on. Wipe it real quick. Move on. And that's really it. You see how simple that was? And of course, if you're doing a larger piece, it's going to take more time. But it's super fun, super easy. And I'm done. Well, I'm all done. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you used Crayola washable markers before in the past and you really liked them, or you didn't, just leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear your experience with them. Until next time, bye.